Hi, welcome to the Global Veg Fest. You have tuned into the third live stream by Plant-Based Health Professionals UK. My name is Dr. Leila Dehran. I'm a board member and the education lead for Plant-Based Health Professionals UK. If you missed any of our first two live streams, you can watch the recordings later. Dr. Neetu Bajekal discussed lifestyle medicine and all aspects of women's health. And Kate Strong, a plant-based athlete, shared her amazing story with us. Now, I'm delighted to actually present something a little bit different. We are going to have 5 different, speakers, and each one is going to, address another, topic, a hot topic, a controversial topic, and talk, all things plant-based. So the first one is Didem Varol. She's a registered dietitian, and she's going to talk about soya. Is it good or bad?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Leila, and thank you, VegFest UK and Plant-Based Health Professionals UK. My name is Didem. I'm Canadian, and that's why I'll refer to soy as soy and not soya, just for your reference. We'll talk today in a very quick 10 minutes whether soy is good or bad for you. As I mentioned, I am from Canada, but currently I live in Istanbul, Turkey, where I run my private practice called Plantgevity Nutrition Solutions. So in this very brief time, I'm going to introduce soy to you, and then we'll review the perceived nutrition myths that abound around soy. We'll look at the real health benefits. Of course, we have to touch on the GMO controversy. And finally, I'll attempt to set the record straight. When I say soy, I'm referring to the soya bean. This has been a staple food actually for thousands of years in the world, mainly in Asia, but it's growing in popularity all over. And soybeans are a wonderful source of many nutrients, namely protein and lots of other minerals. It also contains something called phytoestrogens. And contrary to what the name suggests, it acts very differently from the estrogen in our bodies, the hormone. And that's partly why it is so good for us. We'll review that when we come to the health benefits. For me, I think the most amazing thing about soy is that it's so versatile. You can make so many things with soybeans, with various levels of processing, of course, but we have to remember that as with all plant-based foods, the less processing, the better. So if we start with how it's found in nature, soybeans are found in pods. So what you see here at the very my left of the screen are edamame beans. These are usually found frozen in major grocery stores. I even find them in Turkey, and you can just steam them and eat them straight from the pod, or you can shell them and add them to whatever dish you may be making. And these are extremely nutritious foods. Next in the line comes tempeh, still very healthy food. It's a fermented soybean patty. And if you look closely, you can actually see the individual soybeans in this. Further along the processing line, we have tofu. Now, in researching for this presentation, I was shocked to discover that when we take soybeans and make tofu, we lose about half the nutrition. That's insane, half the protein, fiber, and some minerals. But here's what's even more crazy. The fact that soybeans are so healthy to begin with, we could throw away half the nutrition and still be left with a pretty healthy product. So tofu is a great choice as well. And it's versatile in its own right. It comes in a variety of textures, and it can be used in both savory and sweet dishes. Finally, there's also soya milk. In my opinion, I mean, I personally prefer soya milk as a plant-based milk because it has a high amount of protein compared to other alternatives like almond or oat milk. And last but not least, there are those vegan mock meats or vegan junk food. I have to say, soybeans are used in, burgers and things like that. And you really have to watch out for these. Check the ingredients. Oftentimes, they're not even using soybean. They're using some sort of soya protein isolate. They've really deconstructed it. And the fat and the sodium could be really high in these. So, I mean, they have their place, though. They're great for people who might be transitioning, from an omnivorous diet to a more plant-based way of eating. And once in a while as a treat, why not? But generally, the saying less is more applies here. Try to pick, soya products that have been processed in the least amount. Now, some of the nutrition myths that you might see in the media include, don't eat soy because it'll cause cancer, especially breast cancer, or it'll promote man boobs, and it's not safe for children. But the research doesn't support this. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The research shows that soybeans can reduce the risk for many cancers, including breast cancer, and that man boobs are probably more likely due to a SAD diet, a standard American diet, than having eaten a lot of tofu. And soy is a healthy food for children of all ages, boys and girls. So let's begin with breast cancer. We know from research that soy reduces the risk for breast cancer. In one study, where women had a daily cup of soya milk or half a cup of tofu daily, they reduced their risk of breast cancer by 30%. And for women who already have breast cancer, if they add soy to their daily regimen, they actually reduce their risk of recurrence. And this is largely in part thanks to those phytoestrogens. Phyto being the key word here, that means that it's a plant source of estrogen versus the real estrogen hormone, growth hormone, that's naturally found in men and women. Now, since it is a growth hormone, it will cause things to grow, including cancer. It's kind of like the fuel that feeds the fire. And by the way, estrogen is naturally found in dairy products because the milk from the cow, contains estrogen to help the baby cow grow. Now, phytoestrogens, they act in the opposite manner. They're like the fire extinguisher. They block the action, in the case of breast cancer, they block the action of estrogen, making phytoestrogens what we call anti-proliferative or anti-carcinogenic. And I want to really belabor this point a bit because this is, I think, the myth that gets the most attention. And it's really, really simple to understand. I have these images here to explain. You have a breast cell. When estrogen gets close to the breast cell, it has to attach to a receptor. And there's two different kinds of estrogen receptors, alpha and beta. Estrogen naturally prefers the alpha receptor. That's where it wants to sit. But when it does so, that can often cause a cascade of events leading to cancer cells multiplying and dividing. Now, interestingly, when phytoestrogen is in the picture, phytoestrogens, they preferentially bind to the beta receptor. And in doing so, they block estrogen from sitting in the alpha chair. Or even if estrogen does get in, they reduce their signaling capacity by one tenth or 1/100th. So basically, they're blocking the effect of estrogen, which interestingly is the same thing done by a common breast cancer drug, tamoxifen. So phytoestrogens operate in the same way. Make no mistake, soy products reduce the risk of breast cancer, the risk of recurrence, and death rates. Similarly, soy products can help reduce the risk of other cancers. I'm going to focus here in the interest of time on prostate cancer. They've been shown to have a protective effect on men as well because of that same blocking mechanism of phytoestrogens on estrogen. And they have no adverse effect on men or their testosterone levels. Heart disease is something else that we should mention, the #1 killer worldwide, yet in most cases preventable and completely reversible through healthy lifestyle changes, one of which would be the adoption of a predominantly whole foods, plant-based diet. And soya could be a very healthful addition to that diet because we know that soy products reduce the lousy or the LDL cholesterol. And itself, soya, like all plant products, doesn't have any cholesterol. So by replacing meat and dairy with soy products in our diet, we would likely improve our heart health. And we know that children can and should definitely consume soy products. In fact, early soy consumption has been shown to be protective later in life. Consistent, regular consumption of soy products could reduce the risk of breast cancer, for example, by 15%, especially when consumed in the preteen and teen years. And that soy does not have an effect on reproductive health or puberty in girls. Now, the GMO controversy is also something that's talked about a lot. Soya is a common GMO crop, meaning it's been engineered to resist a herbicide so that we can spray the herbicide on it and the plant doesn't die and we get better yields. Sadly, there isn't enough human data suggesting harm from the genetic modification, but in fact, the greater harm might be from the potential pesticide residues that are building up on these plants that are hardy and can endure all of this pesticide on them. But what's interesting is that most of the GMO that's grown this way, GMO soy, it's commonly used as animal feed. So omnivores may be getting more GMO soy than they thought. So in the end, the bottom line is that the benefits of soy still outweigh the risks, the potential risks from them being GMO, if you're even consuming GMO. And the way that you can be sure to be not consuming GMO foods is to buy organic, of course, if you have access to that. And again, trying to just focus on the forest rather than the trees here. GMO is a very serious issue, but the overall picture is that most people's diets in the Western world are not very healthy. They don't eat enough vegetables and fruits. So let's try to, get the overall diet quality better. And then hopefully we'll have more research to answer about the GMO situation. I want to end my presentation with kind of two questions. And the answers to both of these questions is no, you don't need soy in your diet. However, it's a very healthy food. So if you do add it, you're going to be getting wonderful nutrients from it and also protection from many diseases. And should you be worried about soy in your diet? Not at all. As long as you're choosing those least processed forms, then you should definitely try to incorporate soy in your diet, whether you're vegan or not, plant-based or not. This is a list of references that I used. Very small, I know, kind of hard to see. So if you would like more information, please email me. I'd love to hear from you. My email is didem@plantjevity.com. And please enjoy the joy of soy. I just had to say that. I love that rhyme. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Didem. This is such an important topic. As you say, we may not need it, but it is so healthy that we should actually include it in our diet. And I'm quite sad because I still meet vegans who feel like, oh, no, you should stay away from soya. But it is not. You can have as much as you like. And next, we are going to welcome Biljana. She's a plant-based nutrition coach, and she's going to show us how to make tofu scramble, which is really delicious. And I know it takes a while to get the hang of it.
Hi, everyone. You can't really see my face now, but hi. My name is Biljana. I'm a plant-based nutrition coach based in the UK, and I hope you have a nice sunny day like we do here in the Southwest. So I'm going to, as Leila announced, I'm going to make scrambled tofu for you today. And I really wanted actually to do everything within these 10 minutes, chop the vegetables, because just to show you that you can really make it in 10 minutes. But because of the noise, I actually avoided doing that. So I preheated my pan. And as I go along, I will tell you the ingredients as well. So I have about 1 teaspoon of vegan butter, teaspoonish. And we're gonna add that. And then we're gonna add a spring onion and 1 clove of garlic. And I have here as well red pepper. Now I'm going to turn this on because it's gonna. Can you still hear me? I hope you do. We're gonna add this red pepper. And I heard, just like Leila mentioned, I heard a lot that about tofu. The people don't really like it because it doesn't have flavor. Now, for me, I love cooking, so it actually is perfect for cooking because you can do pretty much anything you want with it. Think of it as a blank canvas. So you can marinated. You can put any seasoning that you like. You can add it to stews, to stir fries, and really do pretty much anything you want with it. So this is already soft. I didn't cut this into small pieces because I like to have some bite, and I'll just quickly show you. Here we go. So now into it, we're gonna add this tofu. This is 1 block of firm tofu. And now we're going to add about half a teaspoon or a quarter of a teaspoon of turmeric. Make sure it's an organic one. For the color, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons or so of nutritional yeast. We're going to add some black pepper because black pepper always goes with turmeric to increase its bioavailability. This is all black pepper down to taste. And I'm going to add something chervil because it goes really nice with scrambled tofu. If you wish, you can also add some chili flakes. Now I'm adding also red pepper because it helps the bioavailability of iron that tofu is source of, and also, as you probably know, calcium, especially if it's set in calcium. And my kids also, but also for the color, because we keep talking about eating the rainbow, right? And my kids, if I don't put red pepper in, they keep asking straight away, where's the red pepper? So like the tofu police. So I'm going to show you here. It looks really nice. And it smells absolutely delicious. Now, another thing that I use with scrambled tofu is black salt or kala namak. And this is a sulfur salt that gives that eggy taste or aroma. So if you do miss that, that's the trick. If you don't, just don't use it, omit it. And this is pretty much ready. I'll show you now. The thing with black salt, add it please after you take it off the heat, because otherwise it will just have the same flavor and it will lose that sulfury aroma that it releases. So I prepared here a plate with some tomatoes, and I'm just going to put on and some parsley because I like parsley as well. It's another good source of calcium. So here we go. I'm going to show you 10 minutes. Scrambled tofu, tomatoes, red peppers, and spring onion. So that's it. It's that simple and it's that quick. And I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you. It looks so easy. I have been struggling with tofu scramble. It never tastes as good as if I buy it from outside. So I have to try your recipe later. You want to share your website with people? I know you have just launched a website, or maybe
yes. So thank you. I actually just launched. Well, you can find me easily with my name, Biljana Hutchinson, on Facebook and on LinkedIn. And you can also find the PlantCamp page. I just launched membership, and I'm very excited about it. So this is the kind of thing that I'm going to do in my membership with people that are already there, and I'm really excited about it. I love cooking, and I like sharing delicious, easy prepared food. So yeah, come and join.
Thank you. That's why I wanted you to come and show us how you do actually your tofu scramble. And Kate is saying she's going to try it, and I'm going to try it definitely as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next, we are going to talk about another issue, which is, a lot of people think, if you go vegan, you lose weight. And yes, you can lose weight, once you transition from an omnivore diet to a vegan diet or more plant-based diet. But there are still some tips you need to know, some little tweaks. So, and we are going to be joined by Dr. Sue Kenneally. She's a weight loss specialist, and she's going to share with us some of her weight loss tips.
Hi, thank you, Leila. That's fantastic, and thank you, VegFest, for having me here today. That's brilliant. So I'll just share my screen, I believe. There we go. Okay, so let's whip through it. So I'm Dr. Sue Kenneally. I'm delighted to be here. Just to explain, I could talk about this all day. Okay, so I've only got 10 minutes, so we'll rush through it and we'll see what happens. So as Leila said, I'm a plant-based bariatric physician, which means weight loss doctor, and my work life is increasingly about weight loss. So I tutor in weight management at the local university here in South Wales. I work with several organisations promoting healthy weight in various ways. I'm on the advisory board of Plant-Based Health Professionals UK. Most importantly from this slide, I have no conflict of interest. Nobody is paying me to say anything that I'm about to say. This is my own conclusion from my own reading of the research. So here we go. So what's the problem? Let's start there. I think what we all know, but just to quickly look at it, over the past 3.5 decades, the prevalence of obesity has nearly doubled worldwide. Among adults 18 years or older, 11% of men and 15% of women were living with obesity in 2014. It's associated with significant health problems, and also increases your risk of shortening your life. So I know there are a lot of people out there who have extra weight, and they're perfectly happy that way, and I support them entirely. But a lot of people who are living with obesity would rather not be. So if if that's you, then this talk is for you. Let's start with the obvious thing. Diets don't work. The majority of people who go on a diet regain most of their lost weight in a very short period. I didn't need to add an academic reference there. We all know that. So no surprises there. First of all, when you're looking at a topic in the scientific literature, the first question is what happens in the population generally? Do people who eat a vegan diet weigh less than people who eat other diets? And that's usually the first stage of looking at a question. And so this was done many years ago now. And sure enough, the authors concluded, and there are many other papers along these lines that say the same kind of thing, comparing omnivores with vegetarians with vegans. Body mass index is one way of measuring body weight. It's has its faults. It's not perfect, but it's one way, and it's a great way of assessing populations, if nothing else. And they did find that omnivores on average had a body mass index of 29, and vegetarians were close to normal with a body mass index of 25.9. 25 or less is considered normal, and vegans had a body mass index of 23 on average. They were the only group in the healthy range on average. So as vegans, we tend to weigh less. What happens if you're eating an omnivore diet and you choose to change to a plant-based diet? What happens? Well, that research has been done too, and this is just one of a number of reviews of this subject. And yes, absolutely, if you change to a vegan diet, it shows that on average you should expect to lose weight. So that's certainly true. So we're on good territory. Let's look at the details. So what's in plant foods? What's the magic here? Well, essentially, at a simple level, plant foods contain fiber, water, and of course plant-based protein, and those are the things that help us to improve our satiety. They're the things that keep us full. And also, if you eat an unprocessed plant food diet, so very much like the picture on the screen here, things that haven't had much done to them, it's just much more work to digest them, and that in itself uses up calories. So your net gain of calories is less than it would be if you're eating something that's very processed. So that's it in a nutshell. But let's look at some details. So how do plant-based diets help? Well, the first principle is energy density. So energy density is how much energy there is in a volume of food. So you can talk a pound, a kilo, a mouthful. And the beauty of this is we all eat the same weight of food, more or less, every day. So we don't necessarily eat the same weight of food as each other. My husband, who's a foot taller than me, eats more food than I do. But each of us will eat the same weight of food ourselves on average most days. So you can imagine that if you're eating it, it's usually 3 to 4 pounds. If you're eating 3 to 4 pounds of, say, chocolate, then it's very easy to overeat. And if you're eating 3 to 4 pounds of spinach, that actually wouldn't be enough calories, and you would lose weight very quickly and probably become fairly unwell if you did that. And that's because of energy density. So what you're looking to do is eat foods that have a very low energy density. So those would be your green vegetables, your berries, your fibrous vegetables like mushrooms, peppers, those sorts of things. The kind of things Biljana was just cooking with, wonderful foods, and eating less of the more dense things. So after the veggies, you've got fruits are okay. And then you've got things like whole grains, they're fine. When you get to things like tofu, that's fine. Once you get to more energy dense than that, so things like baked goods and the alternative vegan products, like the alternative meats and so on, they tend to be quite energy dense. And then things like oils and so on are very dense. So I'm not saying don't ever eat any of them, but if you can base your diet on the fruits, the veggies, the whole grains and things like beans and tofu, that's a very low energy dense diet, and that will suit you very well. Plant-based diets help with your microbiome. I don't know if people know about your gut bugs, your friendly bacteria. They change according to what you eat. And I'll just summarize by saying, if you eat a diet that has lots of plants in it, the gut bugs that are associated with a low body weight or lower body weight thrive on that, and they change things to help you lose weight more effectively. Plant-based diets have been shown to help you regulate your appetite more effectively. You're less likely to overeat, you get fewer cravings. It does clever things to the hormones in your brain to calm them down, so you're less likely to overeat. It's wonderful. And epigenetics, I can't get into this in a 10-minute talk. We're all born with genes that we can't alter, but we can alter how much they are switched on or switched off to some extent. It's not foolproof. And that's called epigenetics, and lifestyle has a lot of epigenetic effects where you can switch bad genes off and switch good genes on, and vice versa, depending on what you eat and how you live generally. And plant-based diets do all the right things with epigenetics. They switch on all the good stuff and they switch off a lot of the bad stuff. Fantastic. So let me just talk about the happy shape. Bear with me. Yes, I'm just checking I've got the right slides here. So I run the Happy Shape Club with the Happy Pair. I don't know if you know the Happy Pair. I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably heard of them. Wonderful organization, and they run a number of courses. And I have the privilege of sharing the Happy Shape course with them. So we put the principles that I've just described into diet form, and we give them recipes, and we ask them to sign up for either a 4-week challenge or a 12-week course. And we just ask them to follow a whole food plant-based diet, incorporating the principles of low energy density and keeping to lower fat and that kind of thing. And this is what they say. They all tend to lose weight. So one of my students evaluated the course, and this is some of the things they said. They said, this has been the most positive experience of weight loss I've ever had. It's changed me as a person. It's changed the way I look at food. I was amazed at how well it worked. I picked some of the recipes I wanted to eat. I made batches of food ahead. It felt wonderful. And then one of my favorites, it just sneaks up on you. You don't realize at first that you're feeling better in yourself, and actually you're sleeping better, and even energy levels are better. And there was another lady who said, you know what, I've lost a load of weight. My aches and pains have gone. I've thrown away my wheelchair. It's amazing what a plant-based diet can do for you, not just in weight loss, but in other ways as well. So what do you actually eat? Well, as I said, low energy density, so lots and lots of fruit and veggies. Fiber, you need lots of fiber because that helps to keep you full. And again, no surprises, lots of fruits and veggies and whole grains. Are you seeing a theme here? Low in refined sugar. So please don't think that carbohydrates and sugars are bad. They're not. They're fine. It's the refined stuff that we don't like. So the things that we find in cakes and biscuits and sweet treats and that kind of thing, they will make your blood sugar go shooting up, and then your body will react to that by making your blood sugar come crashing down. And it usually does that a little bit too enthusiastically, so your blood sugar goes too low, which makes you hungry and grumpy and makes you crave foods, and nobody ever craves broccoli. So you end up craving stuff that's not going to do you any favors in terms of your weight loss goals. Your sugar goes shooting up again, and you end up on this roller coaster throughout the day. So we're talking about low in refined sugar. So again, the fruits, the vegetables, the whole grains, things that keep your blood sugar nice and stable. Water is a big top tip. Okay, your body doesn't differentiate very well between hunger and thirst. If you're hungry and you're thinking, well, that's odd because I had my last meal fairly recently, I wouldn't expect to feel hungry right now. It could be just that you're craving food for a non-physiological reason, like stress or some kind of emotion. It could be that you're thirsty, so try having a drink. Also, there's a lot of evidence that water helps reduce the amount that we eat. So whether you drink it before meals, and a good volume is needed, you need to drink a pint of water before your meals. That helps. And consume foods that naturally contain it. So think about soups and smoothies, and of course salads, because vegetables contain a lot of water. So far we've got lots of fruits and veggies for the low energy density, plenty of fiber. So again, fruits and veggies and the whole grains and also legumes. And then plenty of water, keeping your blood sugar nice and stable. Keep it unprocessed, okay? That's one of the most important things. As I said before, if you're eating processed foods, that's ready meals and pre-prepared snacks and that kind of thing. A lot of them have had a lot of stuff done to the ingredients so that they take a lot less effort to digest. And that's not necessarily a problem if you've got some sort of bowel complaint and you're struggling with food generally and you have difficulty with absorption. But for most of us who are healthy, the fact that we have to burn up quite a few calories in order to absorb our food is a good thing. It keeps our net calorie gain down, which is a very important part of weight loss, because there are lots of theories about how we gain or lose weight. But ultimately, if you want to lose weight, you do have to have a calorie deficit, which means you have to be eating less than you're burning. And lastly, Harahachibu, which is what the Japanese do. That's eat till you're 80% full. So we all know the feeling of being absolutely stuffed, say at a special occasion or a celebration. And we all know the sensation of feeling very hungry. What we're aiming for when we're eating is eating just till you're not hungry anymore. So not full, not stuffed, just not hungry anymore. So you could eat more if you wanted to, but you choose not to. That's a great top tip for keeping your weight in check. So conclusions, it's not about going on a diet because that doesn't work. I think most of us statistically have been on a diet at some point, and we all know the weight goes back on. It is about embracing a whole food plant-based diet long term. If you don't go on a diet, you don't have to come off a diet. You know, you can have the occasional treat meal, but if day by day you're eating a whole food plant-based diet with the low energy density, then you'll be in safe hands in terms of your nutrition. There's extensive scientific data that explains why plant-based diets are effective, and there's more and more evidence all the time. If you want to follow somebody, follow Neil Barnard's lab, including Hannah Karliova and that crowd. Most of the stuff that I've researched when I've been reading things around this subject is done by their lab, that they are on the cutting edge of establishing all the evidence here. And it really works in practice. You really can be a happy shape, as evidenced by the Happy Shape Club that I run with the Happy Pair. So that's me. Thank you ever so much. And thank you for plant-based health professionals for inviting me to do this. And come and find me at the Happy Shape Club, or come and find me at drsuekenneally.com or on social media. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Sue. That was very useful. I really like the Harahachibu, because I always tell to my clients, you know, just a couple of tablespoons less will make a difference actually long term. So, you know, and as you mentioned, if it is not a diet, you will never need, you know, to come off it, and you will never, you know, kind of, you know, fall off the bandwagon, you know, just make it into a lifestyle. So really useful tips. Thank you. Really appreciate that. So our next speaker is Julie, who is a registered dietitian, and she's going to talk about bloating, which is also a very common problem, you know, when you first go vegan and include all these legumes into your diet. And Pete is going actually to share your slides, Julie. Is that okay? And you just say next and we'll do that. All right, sure. There you go.
Hi there. Hi, thanks Layla, and thank you for having me. My name's Julie Stewart and I'm a registered nutritionist. So bloating is one of the most common digestive systems that people talk about, and it can affect anyone of any age eating any diet. We probably all experience bloating for ourselves, that feeling of tightness, pressure, fullness around the middle after a heavy meal. And bloating is the result of excess gas, air or fluids building up in our digestive system, and it can cause our stomachs to distend and expand even up to 5 times their size. Vegans sometimes experience bloating because we typically eat a higher fiber diet. All those lovely whole plant foods that we've been hearing about, the fruit and vegetables, the nuts and seeds, the whole grains, the legumes like beans and lentils. These are all high fiber sources of food, which are great, but are also known to cause bloating in some. So we tend to blame the food itself. Anyone suffering from bloating might be tempted to avoid eating them altogether and cut them out of their diet. And how many times do we hear people say, oh, I love beans or I love chickpeas, but they don't love me? Well, if you're one of those people, I'm going to explore why the bloating might be happening for you. And I'm going to give you some key things that you can try out to help you beat the bloat and maybe get those beans loving you back again. So if we can share the slides now, Pete. That's great, thank you. So the precise cause of bloating is unclear actually, but there are many known mechanisms that can contribute to bloating. And the first one, change in diet, often experienced by new vegans, especially if you are adopting a whole food plant-based diet. And it just takes a bit of adjustment. Sometimes it just takes your gut bacteria, the whole digestive system a bit of time to settle down and catch up to the new way of eating. Digestive capacity as well. So we all have our own individual digestive health, and that can affect how we digest our food. So things like our stomach acid levels. There are lots of systems involved in digestion, not just our stomach. So our liver, our pancreatic enzymes that are being released from our pancreas. So basically all of these digestive juices that are released when we process our food. Intestinal dysbiosis is just a term used to describe the imbalance of our microbiome that Sue mentioned, which is so important for our health. And intestinal permeability, some people may have what's also known as leaky gut, often as a result of dysbiosis, and that can contribute to bloating as well. Hormones, for some women, they experience worsened bloating around the time of their period. And lifestyle factors, things like stress and alcohol, can all sort of make bloating worse. Other things like smoking, a sedentary lifestyle, can all affect gut health and bloating. And then functional gastrointestinal disorders such as irritable bowel syndrome, celiac disease, inflammatory bowel disease. All of these things tend to lead to an increased sensitivity, like a hypersensitivity in our gut. So it may not be that we're even producing more gas, but we're more sensitive to it. And then lastly, things like medication, certain medications and medical treatments may well contribute to bloating as well. So the next slide, please. Just to reassure everyone, bloating is completely normal. And if you're thinking, you know, well, I do bloat quite a lot, it's actually quite a good sign. It's a sign that everything's working. You know, after you've eaten a meal, gases are being released as normal part of the fermentation process as we digest our food. And one study found that burping and belching is actually normal up to 20 to 30 times a day, so possibly more than we might think is normal. And farting up to 23 times a day is all completely normal. So in general, you know, it's nothing to worry about. Next slide, please. But bloating can become sort of quite problematic for some people. And if there's a lot of pain involved, regular stomach aches, you're getting discomfort on an ongoing basis, and it's really affecting the quality of your life, then it's worth, first of all, seeing your doctor to get anything ruled out, because it could be a red flag for some more serious disorders, quite rarely, but it's best to go and get checked out. So next slide, please. So let's look at some things that you can do to help your digestion. And the first one, really basic one, but chew your food thoroughly. And digestion really starts in the mouth. And you might think, well, that's really basic. I do chew my food. But focus on chewing each mouthful really well until it's liquid. Don't swallow until it's liquid. And this was an absolute game changer for me once I focused on chewing properly, and not just doing sort of 3 to 4 chews and then swallowing down, because it can, for myself as a former IBS sufferer, I really found that it made all the difference to just help that whole digestive process right at the start of the digestive system. The next thing is to eat smaller meals. If you're suffering from bloating, it might help to eat smaller meals, but more frequently. And don't skip meals, because it tends to make you more hungry, and then you might eat a bigger meal at the next sitting. So as Sue was saying, that Harahachibu, you know, try and eat until you're not too full. Smaller portions are much better. And you know, for people that have cut out the fiber or the trigger foods for them, maybe try introducing them, because we really want to encourage you to eat these types of foods. They really are a staple in a whole food plant-based diet. Fiber is really needed for your overall health. Fiber is, I like to think of it like a personal trainer for your digestive system, for your gut. So your intestines are just like any other muscle in the body. They need a good workout, and it's the fiber that will do that. And the more of a particular type of food that you eat, the more bacteria that you'll have present in your gut microbiome to digest that food. So it is good to just not cut them out completely, maybe reintroduce them, but low and slow. Some people find cutting out Fodmap foods. You may have heard of Fodmaps. These are a group of poorly absorbed carbohydrates found in many plant foods. Some people find that reducing these may help the symptoms of bloating. However, it's only really advised to do this for a short time, because if you look up online Fodmap foods, you'll find a whole list of foods come up, and they'll be like really healthy foods, anything from sort of like apples to garlic to beans to cauliflower. All of these foods actually we want to be eating. So maybe just on the short term to minimize the effects of bloating, but in the long term you really want to be including all of these foods to ensure nutritional status and microbial diversity. Soluble fiber. So soluble fiber is a good way to start building up your fiber if you are sensitive to it. There are 2 different types of fiber, soluble and insoluble. And soluble fiber tends to be much gentler on the digestive system. As it goes in, it forms a gel as it mixes with the fluids in your stomach. And things like oats, avocado, ground flaxseed, banana, psyllium husk are all really good forms of soluble fiber. So that's a good way to start. And then resistant starch is just another, a gentler form of fiber. And you get resistant starch from things like cooked and cooled rice and potatoes. Next slide, please. So a couple of things to watch out for. Avoid chewing gum. As you're chewing the gum, you often swallow more air, and carbonated or fizzy drinks as well. Try to avoid those, because you're just adding in air into an already quite gassy stomach that's just going to increase any bloating. Artificial sweeteners as well. So there's a group of sweeteners called polyols, which are in one of those Fodmap subgroups that are quite sort of difficult for us to digest. And there'll be things like xylitol, mannitol, sorbitol. There's a whole group of them. Anything ending in ol, basically on the ingredients label. These are known to cause bloating, so avoid those. Bitter foods. So bitters are anything that tastes bitter. So bitter leaves like rocket or watercress or chicory. It's quite good to actually include those within your meal, or maybe as a starter, as a side salad, because they actually help stimulate digestive juices and help you sort of break down and digest that food a bit better. And you can get bitter drops in a supplement form that you just take 15 minutes before a meal. And they'll contain things like ginger, rosemary, fennel, dandelion. Lots of things are known to help stimulate the digestive juices and act as a digestive aid. And other things, digestive enzymes that you can get in supplement form. And these may be appropriate for people who've got lowered pancreatic enzyme excretion as well. Apple cider vinegar, something that some people find quite healthy. It's not a particularly evidence-based thing, but there's minimal evidence on taking just 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar diluted in water just before eating. And that may help some. It's worth a try. But again, just a temporary thing to try to help digest your food a little bit better. Peppermint oil. Now, there's a good evidence base for using peppermint oil. It's an antispasmodic, so it really helps to relax smooth muscle in your gut and just calm everything down to stop that sort of spasming and bloating. Again, only on a temporary basis, but you could use them just for symptom management, 1 capsule just before a meal. Prebiotics and probiotics are sometimes used as part of a gut healing program. They shouldn't necessarily be the first line of support for digestion, but they may well be part of a gut healing protocol. Next slide, please. And not to forget really important lifestyle factors. Sleep makes a huge difference to your gut health overall. Movement, get some exercise. It might just be going out for a walk after a meal. And I don't mean necessarily pounding at the gym, but some yoga is really good. I love yoga for all of its stretches and twists, which really help disperse any trapped wind that might be in your gut and also tone those intestinal muscles a little bit. Hydration, we keep hearing how important water is. Hydration really helps the passage of food through your intestines, and it helps sort of prevent constipation. When people are constipated, they can get a build-up of gases as well. You'd be really surprised at how many people are chronically dehydrated. So always worth sort of checking that. And it doesn't necessarily mean gulping down more water, but eating all of those hydrating foods that Sue was talking about earlier, all the plant foods. Mindful eating as well. Again, so sitting down peacefully, eating in a nice, calm environment helps sort of stimulate your gastric juices and really aids digestion. How many of us sit in front of our laptop and eat our lunch really quickly on the go, or we're sitting down in front of the TV distracted by the television, or the kids are playing up at the dinner table? Anything like that is going to reduce your digestive capacity. So next slide, please. We're just going to look at some things that you can do to actually make the food maybe a little bit easier to digest. So some cooking tips for you. If you're cooking your own beans from scratch, pulses, legumes, nuts, even whole grains, I'd recommend soaking them in water. I soak everything. It softens the skins and reduces phytates. And phytates are so-called anti-nutrients that can cause discomfort in sensitive tummies. Soak or grind seeds as well. So grinding seeds down to a powder gives you better absorption of the nutrients actually, and aids easier digestion. There's a powder called asafoetida, which is an Ayurvedic herb traditionally used in Indian cooking, which may aid digestion. It's worth a try if you're cooking like a lentil curry or something. Just add a pinch in when you're cooking. Kombu is a seaweed that contains enzymes that are said to reduce bloating and just help the breakdown of sugars that are found in things like beans and legumes. So you just add a strip to the cooking water as you're cooking them, and they are said to reduce those gas-producing culprits. So also to start the digestive process off, very much like the chewing earlier, if you're introducing fiber back into your diet, go for mashes, purees, soups and smoothies. These things are already partially broken down. And just a little word about juices and smoothies. They can increase osmotic pressure in your gut by drawing in water. So don't drink large quantities too quickly. Next slide, please. And lastly, just don't give up. Don't give up on the beans or all those lovely foods. Try these tips that I've given you. If you still get bloated, then get checked out and maybe consider working with a plant-based health professional who can organise some further testing to really get to the root cause of what's causing the bloating for you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Julie. That was really useful. And, bloating is such a common problem actually vegans face, or people who are trying to go more plant-based. So I'm really sure, I'm sure people can benefit from your talk and the tips you gave us. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So lastly, we have Deb Williams, and she's going to talk about, she's a nature connection guide and a mindfulness coach. And she's going to talk about how to manage stress, which is, a very common problem. We are all going through some stressful times, especially now. So I'm sure you will enjoy it. Deb, please. Hi, Deb.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, VegFest and plant-based health professionals, and thank you, Layla, for inviting me along. Just in the interest of transparency, this is my first presentation, so if you see me reading my notes or looking like I am. Okay, so I'm here to give some tips to manage stress. So I am a newly accredited natural mindfulness guide and nature connection guide. So if we just go straight into stress itself, oops, beg your pardon, there you go. So let me begin by just saying that stress is common to everyone, and the stress response is a normal part of life. And it's the body's way of preparing us all to be able to meet tough situations for fight or flight, from danger or perceived danger. And it can also be beneficial, to be fair, to actually motivate us and to help us meet deadlines and get jobs done. So it's not easy to pin down exactly what stress means, though. So we find ourselves saying, this is stressful, or I'm feeling stressful. But we might be talking about situations or events that put pressure on us. For example, times where we have lots to do and think about, or when we don't have much control over what's happening. It could be our reaction to being placed under pressure, or the feeling we get when we have demands placed on us that we find difficult to cope with, or that we feel that we've got tasks that we feel that we're not unable to, complete them on time. So stress can be felt in many different ways, both physically and emotionally. And some people may not even notice that they are stressed until symptoms start to occur. And prolonged and unchecked stress can lead us feeling overwhelmed and unable to cope. And this can cause mental health problems further down the line. So there's no medical definition of stress itself, but whatever your personal definition of stress is, it will be beneficial for you to learn to manage your stress. Okay. So I just want to go through the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine for you before I go any further. Now, the 6 pillars are advocated by the British Society of Lifestyle Medicine, with whom Plant-Based Health Professionals UK are affiliated. And the pillars are mental well-being, which we'll focus on in a little bit, but healthy relationships, and that's about the connections that we have with people, work-related, friends, family, and trying to keep those healthy. Physical activity, increasing physical activity, whatever that means for you, taking a nice walk, going to the gym, doing yoga, etc. Minimizing harmful behaviors, and that's behaviors like one class of smoking, drinking, substances, even things like gambling. Sleep is one of the pillars, and that's about good sleep hygiene and getting enough sleep. And then healthy eating, and that's where lifestyle medicine advocates for a whole full plant-based diet, trying to lower us eating processed foods, salts, sugars, and fats. So these pillars themselves are actually standalone tips to help manage stress in their own right. But going back to mental well-being, and specifically tips to manage stress, which is our focus today, lifestyle medicine actually teaches us techniques to manage stress and helps people to relax. Lifestyle medicine can also help people to find purpose in their lives and to improve their health through nature connection. So, mentioning nature connection, this brings me nicely to mindfulness and natural mindfulness. So let's start with mindfulness. Mindfulness is a way of paying attention to the present moment, being aware of what you're sensing and feeling, without interpretation or judgment. And practicing mindfulness can involve breathing method, guided imagery, other practices to relax the body and mind and help reduce stress. One of the other practices is natural mindfulness. So natural mindfulness, like mindfulness itself, uses our 5 senses to help us pay full attention to something in a relaxed and easy way. So with natural mindfulness, we use our 5 senses, which is touch, sight, taste, smell, hearing, to connect directly with nature. But just being in nature without actually doing anything like mindfulness or any other intervention, not only makes you feel better emotionally, but it also contributes to your physical well-being. It reduces blood pressure, it reduces your heart rate, it reduces muscle tension, and it also reduces the production of stress hormones, which can lead to inflammation in the body and then to illness. So just let me mention nature deficit disorder to you. I don't know if anybody's heard of that, but this was introduced in 2005 with the publication of a book called Last Child in the Woods, Saving Our Children from Nature Deficit Disorder. And the author was Richard Louv, and he coined the phrase. So nature deficit disorder is not a medical term, but a description of the human cost of alienation from nature and the disconnect from it. So scientific evidence suggests that nature deficit disorder contributes to a diminished use of senses, to attention difficulties, conditions of obesity, and higher rates of emotional and physical illness. Also, nature deficit disorder, it is a thing, and it's becoming more of a thing as we are drawn further and further away from nature and into our homes and places of work on digital applications and platforms. So I'm just going to bring to you my top tips for managing stress and reconnecting to our senses to direct you away from the digital world and back to nature. So firstly, let's look at the breath. Try and start to breathe with an intention, a conscious intention to slow yourself down, to calm yourself and to ground yourself. Use your breath as a focal point and as an anchor. So learn to follow your breath and stay with it. When you feel your mind wandering, bring your focus back to your breath. Breathe through your nose if you can, as this is actually a natural way of breathing, and it automatically calms the mind. And so it automatically slows the breath and it automatically calms the mind. And it also is, it naturally engages the diaphragm and diaphragmatical breathing. So just do this for 5 minutes a day, and you'll notice a difference in stress reduction and stress management. And if you do this outside in nature and connect with nature, like in a garden or a green space, that will be even better. So secondly, take regular breaks from whatever it is that you're doing. And if you're sitting a lot during the day, get up and walk around. Research shows that sitting for long periods of time is akin to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Again, I'd advise that you get up and step outside for some fresh air, natural light, and some nature connection. Even if all you can see is the sky, it might be that you're at work and you work in a city, so there's not a lot of nature about, but just looking at the sky, you are actually connecting to nature. So while you're doing that, you could actually go back to what I've just spoke about, the breath, and do 5 minutes breath work while you're out there. So thirdly, bring nature indoors. So be that by opening a window, or going to a room with a window that's got a nice view, or actually bringing plants in, whether that's in your home or in your workplace. Because the restorative powers of nature can be found in all nature and should not be underestimated. You can even use indoor diffusers, essential oils, as well as plants to help bring in natural sights and smells. Now, many species of trees emit biochemicals called phytoncides, and phytoncides interact with our nervous system and have calming properties. They actually also increase NK cells, which is natural killer cells in our bodies that increase our natural immune system. So beneficial fragrances to use in the home are pine, cedar, spruce, and conifer. So really try to engage your senses, sight, touch, smell, taste, and hearing with nature. Connect in the moment with awareness and curiosity, and wherever you are, because that will be, if you do that and do it as much as you can, it'll be absolutely brilliant. So that just leaves me with this short little excerpt from a poem from InQ, from a poem called Superpowers. It's take a breath, look around, see the sights, hear the sounds, feel the ground. So that is the end of my talk. Thank you for having me. My name's Deb Williams, but before you go, don't forget, number 1, take a breath. Number 2, take a break. And number 3, connect. Connect with nature and connect with your true nature. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Deb. That was really useful. I really enjoyed what you said, being in nature, just being in nature, without even doing anything else, it can actually help. I really like that. And we, underestimate the power of actually just being in the presence of nature around us. So
absolutely.
Yes, definitely. And breathing, that's again something we keep forgetting. Whenever we are stressed out, the first thing we do, holding our breath. So we should actually start paying more attention to
absolutely. I was having to practice that just now.
Yeah, me too, because we were actually running over, and I was like, oh no. And then I thought, okay, just take a few deep breaths and everything will be fine. Thanks, Deb.
No, thank you.
Thank you. So thank you to everybody who joined us today. We had some amazing speakers, and really they actually tackled a few hot topics, when you're following a vegan diet. So if you didn't actually watch it, or if there's too much information for you to take in, you can watch the recording later and just, learn from it and incorporate some of the useful tips. Thanks again for VegFest for having us. I really enjoyed it, and I'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.